Did you hear that John MacArthur told a Christian YouTuber to keep her thoughts to herself? It is April 28th, 2023. My name's Tim, the BTWN guy. And maybe you did. And if you didn't, here's the news and the topic for this video. Why did John MacArthur tell a Christian YouTuber to keep her thoughts to herself? So we are going to play the clip where John MacArthur said this. And then I'm going to play a clip from the Christian YouTuber that may have been why John MacArthur said what he said. I'll get more specific as we move along. Did you know there's an investigation going on? Yeah, there's an investigation into John MacArthur, an ongoing investigation with 56 articles now. 56 articles about John MacArthur. Julie Roy's, the Roy's report, now writing an article about John MacArthur tells female YouTuber to keep her thoughts to herself. And this is false. And listen to him. He never said, you need to listen to me. He never said that at all. So that is an untruth posted on the Roy's report. When I play the clip, you'll see he did not say, keep your thoughts to yourself and listen to me. He doesn't say that. Doesn't say it. The Roy's report reporting on this, it's hilarious. If you want to see all my content before it drops here on YouTube, join me on Ko-Fi. The first link in the description of this video will send you to this page. You can become a friend, a fan, a wingnut. There's 5 tiers altogether, a builder or a super wingnut. That helps pay the bills, and you get all the YouTube content before it drops on YouTube, and you can see it without ads. So take advantage of that, and I would love it if you would do that. So here's where John MacArthur said the statement in question, and we'll just go ahead and play it, and then we'll hear from her, the young lady who believes that John MacArthur was talking about her. So John MacArthur's being interviewed, and he's asked, at what point did you embrace the doctrines of grace?
Well, I think I always believed the doctrines of grace. Obviously, when I was very young, in my 20s, I don't know that I had the refined understanding. I don't know that I would have been able to give a full-orbed defense of every doctrine of grace, but I was always a believer in them. When I was in seminary, toward the end of my seminary days, I started reading the Puritans. So this would have been graduating from seminary when I did in 1964. This would have been 5 years before I came to grace. So it was from the last year or so in seminary and the intervening few years that I was really kind of boning up on Reformed theology. So by the time I landed here, I was convinced. And one of the things that I wanted to do, and this was kind of an underlying commitment in my heart, was to exposit the entire New Testament. And I thought not only would that be the greatest thing I could do in my life, to provide for the congregation the whole New Testament explained and applied, but I also thought that could test my theology. If my theology, if the convictions that I held theologically were true, they would stand the test of exposition. So your theology goes into the fire in every text, right? And it has to survive the fire of every text. You know, I was looking at the internet the other day, and some wistful girl said how I became a Calvinist and left Calvinism. Well, the sophomoric comment like that from somebody who should keep her thoughts to herself because she has no idea what she's talking about, is to be measured against someone who for 50 years has taken every text of the Bible and put doctrine into that text and see if it survives. And I can say that it has.
Okay, so that's what he said. He compared himself to this young lady who said, "Hey, I was a Calvinist and I'm not anymore." And you'll get why he said it was sophomoric and why he told her to keep her thoughts to herself when you hear her. But what MacArthur's saying is, I've been preaching for 50 years. I'm an expert on this, and I have tried it, and I have preached verse by verse for 50 years, and now I only hold these doctrines to be even more true than I did before, more firmly than before. And some might say, "Hey, that's haughty. Hey, he shouldn't say that," or that's quite proud of him to say that. If you want advice on any topic, I suggest you go to an expert, not somebody who is a newbie, somebody who is not as experienced. Whether it's theology or getting your car fixed or how to raise kids, you don't you don't go to a new mother to learn how to raise kids. You might talk to your grandmother, your grandparents, or whatever. Talk to somebody who's an expert in the field, and not the young person who is just learning. And the foolishness of some of the things that this young lady has said is why he said that. And let's hear a little bit more before we go to her clip.
So it's a stronger conviction, and in no sense is there any part of my understanding of the doctrines of grace that has been weakened. Everything has been intensified and strengthened in all these years of study.
So you never had one of the...
Okay. Link to this video in the description of this video. And I will link this video as well. Now, this is a, what is her name? Alana L is her YouTube channel. And she has become a online preacher, basically, as she goes through scripture now to try to discount the doctrines of grace. But here she is explaining how she came to not be a Calvinist. She became a Calvinist from listening to John MacArthur. And now she explains her 4-day experience in becoming a non-Calvinist.
It became a roller coaster of emotions, of course, when I realized, okay, I am not a Calvinist. After my journey through scripture, I went to Calvinistic systematic theology books. I did not go to the internet. I did not go to blogs. I did not go to videos. I did not go to people. I did not go to articles. I went strictly to the systematic theology books written by Calvinists, and I wrote down every passage that they said proved total depravity to be biblical. Then I went to all those scriptures, and then I did the same thing for U and L and I and P. Then I did the same thing for the order of salvation. I did the same thing for reprobation. I did the same thing for faith not being a work. I did the same thing for sovereignty and compatibilism and free will, libertarian free will and compatibilistic free will. I knew these things from sitting in Sunday school for the last 17 years in a Reformed church. So I knew these terms. I have done theology classes in college and at church. So I knew these things, but I redug into everything. And after I went through that, which took me like 4 days, it was Thanksgiving weekend. I was so happy because I didn't have to do anything. Hector was off, my mom was off. I was in my room with my Bible like a maniac, okay? And after 4 days, I knew I'm not a Calvinist. I am not a Calvinist. None of these things are lining up with scripture. None of the things I thought I believed are actually what the Bible is saying, right? So that's that.
That's that. She does seem pleasant, though. Did you catch what she said before we get into the 4 days thing? She said in her list of things that she found to be false is that faith is not a work. I believe that's an error. She probably does not believe that faith is a work still, but in her list of things that she debunked as she went through all the scriptures, she said faith is not a work. 4 days. That's the part that got me. 4 days, this woman spent 4 days going through all the passages that speak about doctrines of grace. 4 days. Pastor John probably spent 4 Sundays on some or more on just one of these verses. And in 4 days, this woman went through all these passages, and not a one of them, not one, was supportive of what Calvinist claims that they do hold to. A few scriptures on election, God's sovereign purpose in salvation. Look at all those verses. She went through every single one of these verses, found out the context, exegeted it. Maybe she went to the original languages. I don't know. But in 4 days, this amazing person read every single one of them and discovered, here's more verses. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of verses that support the doctrines of grace that are listed in systematic and theology books, the ones that she's talking about. And within 4 days, hey, I have some videos on my other YouTube channel on Calvinism. Check them out. I'll put some of them up above my head here if you're interested. Total depravity is the easiest one to, there's more support for. We did 2 videos on that. John MacArthur's done a whole sermon series on it, I'm sure. John MacArthur, 50 years in the pulpit, faithfully preaching and teaching for 50 years. And this, it doesn't matter if she's a woman or a young man, has debunked every single verse in 4 days. That's sophomoric. That's somebody who should keep her thoughts to herself. And I support Pastor John in his characterization of this young woman. Her video linked in the description of this video. You can go, if you're against the doctrines of grace, maybe you'll go and subscribe to her. She does seem like a nice person when she's not making sophomoric comments. But that's why John MacArthur did it. That's why he did it. Because now you might say, how does she know he was talking about her? I probably should have said this in the beginning, but I forgot. She was on with Leighton Flowers, who's a fiery, angry, anti-Calvinist person. She was on his show, and she has summarized that it must be her. There were feminists on Twitter, multiple women on Twitter's. That's me. Everybody wanted to be the one that John MacArthur had referenced, but I guess we're pretty sure it was this young lady. But that's why he said it. Your comments below. I'd be interested in your comments below. I just showed you one of many sophomoric-like comments that she has, and now she's basically a YouTube preacher now, going through the passages of Scripture and debunking everything. Interesting. Well, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the links in the description of this video and leave your comments and share it, whatever. Thank you. See you next time.